The landscape of present-day southern Saskatchewan was formed by glaciers and water acting on the coastal plain and delta land surface created by the uplifting of the Rocky Mountains to the west. At one time, the distinctive white clay that we see around Claybank was like the bottom layer of a multi-layered, multicolored layer cake. This bottom layer is called the White Mud Formation. While the timelines are still being investigated and debated, we know that a series of 4 glaciers advanced to and then retreated from this area. The tongues of these glaciers would have moved first into the valley just west of Claybank, perhaps scraping down to the white mud in places. The ice pushing through the valley also caused the underlying white mud to bend and rupture in blocks, pushing some of those blocks higher than they would otherwise be, as we see the clay pit behind the brick plant today. This outcropping is located on the north side of the Dirt Hills. Early in the 20th century, it would become the site of the Claybank Brick Plant, a unique chapter in Saskatchewan's industrial history. It also links us to the beginnings of human history in the area. First Nations people stopped there regularly, as the hills offered shelter, firewood, and food. Oral histories recount that Plains Indian peoples used the clay for ceremonial and medicinal purposes, and made cooking and storage pots from it. Some considered the clay sacred, using it for ritual purposes. There is also a sacred circle, sometimes called a medicine wheel, atop one of the nearby hills. It is still used by the First Nations people today. In 1886, the dramatic upthrusting of white clay caught the eye of a homesteader named Tom McWilliams, who settled about 30 kilometers from the hills. He conducted some tests and learned that it was very rare clay, suitable not only for the manufacture of face brick for building construction, but also for refractory brick, commonly called fire brick, for fireplaces, smelters, power plants, furnaces, oil refineries, and locomotive fireboxes. For a while, McWilliams hauled clay by wagon to brick manufacturers at Moose Jaw. However, this proved to be time-consuming, arduous, and not as profitable as he had hoped. Opportunity knocked some years later when a new rail line passed within a few kilometers of his homestead. McWilliams joined with several Moose Jaw businessmen to form the Moose Jaw Fire, Brick, and Pottery Company, which successfully lobbied for a spur line to the clay pits, one of the few places in Canada where refractory clay is easily accessible. You can still see the line where it enters the plant from Claybank. The company was reorganized as Saskatchewan Clay Products in 1912, and during the next 2 years, the plant was built at Claybank. In 1914, it began producing much sought-after fire brick for Canadian industries, replacing imports from the United States, England, and Scotland. It also produced face brick for the construction industry. Nevertheless, the plant got off to a shaky start because of a worldwide recession in 1913 and the effects of the First World War. However, it came into its own from the 1920s to the 1940s, reflecting Canada's increasing industrial development. Railways, power plants, pulp and paper manufacturers, glass producers, cement manufacturers, steel makers, and oil refiners all relied on fire clay products for their operations. Claybank and another plant in British Columbia dominated the manufacture of fire clay products from domestic clay. The product line was expanded in 1917 and 1918, and during the next 2 years, 4 more kilns, 2 stacks, a dryer building, a laboratory, an office, and a 2-story brick bunkhouse for single men were built. In 1926, the plant began manufacturing arch bricks used inside locomotive boilers, supplying all railway companies west of Lake Superior. 2 additions to the dryer building, the construction of 2 new stock sheds and a brick carpenter workshop, followed this move. By 1934, the plant's appearance was very similar to what you see today. Claybank was a rare bright spot during the Great Depression of the 1930s, when Saskatchewan suffered more than any other province in Canada. The demand for locomotive refractories made Claybank the busiest brick-making operation in Saskatchewan by 1938. Production increased again during the Second World War as Claybank supplied fire brick for the boilers of combat ships built on the east and west coasts and the British Commonwealth air training plan bases constructed across the prairie provinces. The plant also produced TP Mocha, Rough Tex, and Tapestry face brick, which was popular with architects for its various fashionable shades of buff and brown. The Chateau Frontenac Hotel in Quebec City is perhaps the most prominent building featuring Claybank face brick and a National Historic Site in its own right. You will also find many distinctive buildings in Saskatchewan: courthouses, land titles offices, the Besborough Hotel in Saskatoon, Gravelbourg Cathedral, the Balfour Apartments and the Hotel Saskatchewan in Regina, the Old St. Louis College in Moose Jaw, commercial buildings, hospitals, and private residences, all faced with distinctive Claybank brick. Brickmaking experienced significant change after the Second World War. New construction products replaced face brick, and diesel locomotives replaced steam engines. Better steel, able to withstand higher temperatures, affected the demand for fire brick. Overnight, the hand mold shop at Claybank went from 8 employees to 1. Some brick plants closed, while others converted from downdraft kilns to tunnel kilns, which could produce bricks in 2 or 3 days instead of the 4 to 6 weeks it took here. With a few exceptions, brickmaking continued at Claybank as it had since 1914, primarily because it was a model of functional layout and efficiency, according to a 1924 report to the Provincial Bureau of Industries. It was a simple, straightforward, efficient manufacturing process, housed in a well-thought-out plant that presented little reason for change, said the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada. Those attributes, and the fact that so little changed, have made Claybank the best-preserved brick plant of its type in North America. For example, in the dry pan area where the clay is mixed, the maulers that ground the first clay in 1914 still work today. Similarly, the brick press, which actually produces the bricks, operates as it did when the plant opened. The design for this press, by the way, was patented in 1889. The plant was connected to the electrical power system in 1953, and natural gas replaced coal for heating 6 of the kilns in 1960. While the workers were happy to be rid of the dirty coal, the change made it impossible to manufacture the same high-quality face brick, which depended on impurities in the coal for its distinctive color. This can be seen in the west addition to the Campion College building in Regina after the conversion. The plant manager of the time said that no matter how they tried, they could not get the color of the new brick to match that of the original coal-fired TP Mocha. In 1954, management of the company operating the plant passed from its Saskatchewan-based founders to an Alberta company, and the following year, A.P. Green Fire Brick Company of Missouri bought a controlling interest in the Claybank plant. In 1962, the company bought the Claybank plant as part of its global operations and renamed it A.P. Green Refractories. Since the company specialized in fire brick, the production of face brick was discontinued shortly thereafter. This international connection resulted in Claybank brick being shipped to some exotic locales. A large shipment of fire brick was sent to Cuba after the United States imposed its trade embargo on that country in the early 1960s. While no one seems to know for sure, it's likely that the brick was used to reline the boilers of sugar plants in Cuba. Some former employees will tell you that Claybank fire brick, as much as 20 feet of it, also underlies many of the launch pads at Cape Canaveral, as specially prepared refractory brick is able to withstand the tremendous thrust and temperatures generated by the rocket engines. Apart from such highlights, however, the plant went into a slow decline as changing technologies reduced the market for high-quality fire brick. The free trade agreement between Canada and the United States meant that A.P. Green could fill any orders to Canada from its 20 plants in the U.S. Claybank was closed in March 1989. A.P. Green donated the plant to the newly established Saskatchewan Heritage Foundation in 1992. After a successful open house the following year, local supporters formed the Claybank Brick Plant Historical Society to generate more community support and develop an interpretive program, including this orientation video. Since then, the plant has been declared both a National Historic Site and a Provincial Heritage Property. Restoration work depends on donations of money, materials, and labor that is being matched by $1 million in funding from Parks Canada over 5 years. Conversion of the old bunkhouse into a visitor reception center is one of the major achievements of the restoration crew, which is led by an experienced Saskatchewan contractor. Next on the restoration list are the kilns and smokestacks. We're glad you found us, hope that you enjoy your visit, and invite you to come back again. Mark the last Sunday in June on your calendar. That's when the Historical Society hosts Heritage Day each year. Also keep in mind that we're planning an official grand opening during Saskatchewan Centennial celebrations in 2005. In the meantime, you can follow what's going on at the plant at the Society's website, www.3.sk.simpatico.ca/cbphn. If you'd like to come back, book ahead by calling 306-868-4774. We keep extended hours during the summer tourist season and book tours by appointment during the rest of the year. Thank you for your attention and your interest in the best preserved example of early 20th century brickmaking anywhere in North America.